Welcome to Books with Kimberly. I'm so excited to review A Song of Wraiths Ruin. Stay tuned. So in my July reading wrap up, I mentioned reading A Song of Wraiths Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. You guys, it was such a great book. A Song of Wraiths Ruin is inspired by African folklore. It is a black fantasy novel. It's young adult. And you guys, I was sold from the start. The book goes back and forth between the perspectives of Malik and Princess Karina. Malik, he is from Eshram. He is escaping Eshram for a better life with his two sisters. They're trying to find work so that they can give money back to their family who is still in the mountains of Eshram. And they're going to Zirin, which is where the royal family lives. It's like where everybody wants to go. That's where you can make a life, your fresh start there. A lot of Eshram people don't get the opportunity to go to Zirin. So Malik and his sisters, they had to change their identity. They had to change everything, change the way they talk, stop talking in their native tongue, also that they could adapt and be a part of this new society so that they could have a better life for them and their family back in Eshram. But Princess Karina, she is fiery. She is very feisty. She does not like being a royal, but it is her birthright. All the women in their lineage, they become queens. They have gray hair and they become queens. And not the men, but the women. They have kings, but the women are who make the rules. So I was definitely there for that. Both of these characters are experiencing some of the same trials and tribulations, but just, you know, with variances. Princess Karina, she is grieving the loss of her father and her sister, and she gets these migraines just whenever she thinks about them. So she just has a lot of pent up grief, a lot of pent up sadness, feeling alone because she was a daddy's girl and her sister were very close. And then you have Malik on the other hand, who he's dealing with mental health issues. He actually thinks he's crazy because he sees what he calls grim folk, which are these black shadows, very inky spirits that he sees lurking around everywhere, and nobody else within his life has been able to see these. Everyone thought he was crazy and he didn't have friends. He was very on the outside, and he deals with panic attacks and anxiety when the pressure is up and when he starts to see these grim folk. And so it was very interesting to see two characters deal with mental issues in a young adult book. I was here for it. All of these characters are on their own personal journey. Something happens. Malik, his sister, is taken away from him, and so he's trying to fight and get his sister back. And to get his sister back, y'all, he makes a deal with this spirit who comes to find out is a real spirit, because he is not just having visions. He's not crazy. He actually has magical powers and can see spirits, but these spirits reveal themselves and his sisters can see them too. So it confirms, like, I'm not crazy, he's not crazy. And because of certain circumstances, which I'm trying not to spoil too much, you know, they end up taking his little sister, and in order to get his sister back, he has to kill the princess. And I'm like, what? He has to kill the princess? And on the other hand, the princess, something happens within her life. I really don't want to spoil that, even though if you read the description, they tell you what's going to happen. But that's why I don't be reading the back of books, because they tell too much. I'm like, I wouldn't have wanted to know this. But something happens to her, and she has to also make a sacrifice of someone's life. And so both of them are dealing with this. There's a lot of fear. And it's what I really loved about this book is that in these dystopian novels, in YA, you see a lot of, when it comes to conflict, it's a lot of man versus society, which is, you see these people trying to break free of this social system, this classist system, that's the have and the have-nots. And even though this is an element of the story, this book is going to be two parts. And I feel like this first part, it was these two main characters gearing up to fight the society in the next book. In this book, it was man versus himself. Both of them were looking in themselves and finding their weaknesses and realizing, like, look, I gotta get it together because I gotta save my sister. I gotta save this person. I have to run this kingdom, and I can't be the person that I am now. I have to push forward. And so it was such a beautiful ride. See these two main characters just leaping over these weaknesses that, you know, are so profound in their lives. You know, Malik feeling weak because of his panic attacks and these visions and thinking he's crazy, but coming to find out that he can do magic. He has the ability to just make you visualize that you're seeing a monster and you're not really seeing a monster. It is really, really cool the way his magic works and how he can manipulate it in order to help him through his journey. And Karina, she has to start ruling the country for a little bit, and she really comes into her strength and is really dealing with some of her weaknesses. So it's great to see this growth from both characters. All of this takes place within 7 days. There's this solsticia, I think that's how it's pronounced. Forgive me if it's wrong, but there's this festival that is happening to mark this comet comes through, and they celebrate the 7 gods they have. They have a god for every day of the week, and they celebrate. They have this game. It's not like Hunger Games, but they have this tournament where they choose 7 champions who go through a series of tasks. I think it's 3, and whoever the winner is, they get a special prize. And in this book, the winner becomes the king. One of the things that I really enjoyed about this book was that it was a really slow pace. Now, I wanted the action to be just a little bit sped up, but I really liked that it wasn't so fast paced that it was hard for me to keep up with what was going on, because sometimes YA can be too much. It's a lot of action, a lot of this going on, and the information, the world building, it was done in such a strategic way that it wasn't just piled up on you. It wasn't like a information overload. But I do like the way that this information was given. So for those who've never read a dystopian and never read a black fantasy, this is a good book to start off with, because it's not just so much thrown on you. Now y'all, from the start I was giving this book 3 stars because I'm like, it's black, it's a dystopian, black girl magic, black boy joy, all kinds of magic, black people. Like, I was just, you know, I'm automatically gonna give it 3 stars. And then I'm reading it more and more, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna give this 4 stars. What was kind of keeping me from being like, this might not be a 5-star, was that they were taking so long to give me my love story. Y'all, I'm not a hopeless romantic, but I need in my books, I need that love story. Even if it's like, you know, it don't gotta be all foo-foo and fluffy. I need something. I need there to be that connection. Both of these characters were going through a lot, and I saw them sinking, you know, even though they were steady, you know, fighting for their tasks that they had to do. There was still this element of them going through so much mentally, and I kind of wish that they had that person to ground them and affirm them. They had that sidekick, that partner in crime, and I didn't get that in the first half of the book, but I wanted it in this book. And I also wanted my love story. It wasn't until the middle of the book, like dead in the middle of the book, that they meet each other and the spark happens, and it wasn't all romantic like I wanted it. But I mean, it's a lot going on right now. I don't know why I was expecting like dates and stolen kisses. I wasn't gonna get none of that. Maybe I'll get it in the next book. What really just took this book from, okay, it's really good, to like, oh, this book is amazing, I want to buy it, I want to reread it, I cannot wait for the second book, was the last quarter. Like, this book just took off, and there were twists and turns, there were betrayals. It was really, really good, and they are gearing up for this man versus society conflict in the second book, and I'm so ready for this second book. I hope I do not have to wait too long to read it, because I am so excited about it, as you can tell. So again, this is A Song of Wraiths Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown, and I recommend that all of you read it. I'm really anticipating a really good second book, so I hope I'm not disappointed, because I feel like by this book kind of slowly getting there and kind of amping up in the last part of the book, it lets me know that all the action is gonna get turned all the way up in the next book, and I'm so here for it. Thank you again for tuning into Books with Kimberly. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching my video.